Hi, I'm Trevor Carlson, host of the Formula Podcast, where we break down and explore the elements of achievement in world-class performers. And today, I have a special guest with me.
My name is Cat Cantrill, and I am the owner and founder of Vitality Fitness and Dance Studio. I empower and transform women through the art of burlesque, which is otherwise known as the art of the tease.
Cat,
Yes.
thank you so much
Thank
for
you, Trevor.
Sitting down to chat with me.
Yes.
I'm excited to have this conversation again.
Yes.
And so I just really want to know, I kind of know the story, but I
Yes.
just want to share it with everyone else. How did you get started in dance?
So I've been dancing my whole life, as long as I can remember. I remember dancing on a stage when I was 3 or 4 years old. My mom was a part of I'm from Phoenix, so she was part of the Scottsdale JCs, and they were putting on a fashion pageant. And she had a really hard time getting me off of stage. And I think at that point, she realized that I was probably, destined to be on the stage. And I had no fear back then. When I look back, they used to do talent shows all the time. And I did a solo for the talent show when I was 9 or 10 years old. And didn't have any fear of judgment, and I didn't win the talent show, and I remember being super upset about that. But one of the judges had pulled me aside and said, if it was up to me, you would have won this talent show. But due to whatever reasons that they couldn't award me. So to me, it wasn't about that reward. It wasn't about getting that. It was just, I just wanted to express myself, and I just wanted to dance. And not only dancing, but choreography. I would make up dances all the time. And so I knew it was something that was super special to me. And so I danced all through high school, was captain of the dance team, danced through college, and then stopped because I got married and had children. And when you are a mom, you don't really dance anymore, which led into really why Vitality existed and why I opened up this place.
So you went from high school dancer to mom to Vitality.
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about how Vitality got started and maybe why? Because I know I've heard this story. I know we had this conversation once before, and even I was like, oh yeah, I hung out with Cat, and we talked about a bunch of different things, and everyone that knows who you are is just like, oh, Cat, I love Cat, she's awesome. And so I think hearing the backstory about how Vitality got started and why, I think would be really interesting.
Vitality was born because of my own journey of rediscovery and because I was trying to figure out who I was. When we lived in Detroit, before we moved here to Cedar Rapids, I was a high school dance coach. And I knew that it was something, and I fell into that position, and it's a really long story, but I fell into that position, and I knew that was something that I was extremely passionate about. So for me, it's never been about performance. For me, it's always been like, I want to teach other people. Because I think that with dancers, there's different types of dancers. There's those that can choreograph, there's those that can teach, there's those that can perform. And even though I do consider myself a great performer, I get so much joy out of teaching and watching other people creating and teaching that, and watching these women grow. And so being a coach kind of enlightened me, but I knew that I wasn't going to coach. I was a single parent. I had 2 kids, and I went on this trying to figure out taking local dance classes. No, I know you do salsa, but salsa wasn't for me. I did Zumba. I was throwing myself everywhere, and I just wasn't happy. But I knew that dance was something that I can do, and I took a local pole dancing class. There was a pole studio in town, and that wasn't for me either. But I loved the idea of a woman feeling sexy and sensual and for me, one of the things that kept me back from getting back in the dance world was because I was older, first. Second was that my body had changed. I had children, and in the dance world, like, it might not be so much like that now, but it was at one point where you had to have a certain physique, especially in ballet. You have to have this certain physique and presence, and I knew I didn't have those things. Not to say that that's a negative, it was just a reality for me. And so when I took the pole dancing classes, even though I knew that wasn't for me, there was something that was being tapped into where it was this sensuality, and I did some research and I fell in love with the art of burlesque. Because burlesque was something, didn't matter your age, didn't matter your size. And I did some research and I was watching this and I'm thinking, man, this is something that I think I can really do. Not only can I do it, but I can choreograph it. I think that this is actually a really good thing. And so I went to the owner that owned that pole studio and I said, hey, this thing isn't really for me, but what if you offer burlesque classes at your studio? And I'll be more than happy. I can do that for you. And she's like, we've tried it. It won't work in this town. Sorry. Cedar Rapids doesn't want it. And I was like, oh.
You don't seem like someone that takes no for an answer.
No, you're right. I don't.
Right.
You can even ask my students that.
Right.
They're like, don't fight her, don't fight her. You know, where they're like, no. Yeah, they know that they can't fight me on things. But there was an instructor at that pole studio, and him and I became fast friends, and I remember talking about it. I'm like, why won't she let me do this? And I just think it's a great idea. And he was like, why don't you just open your own place? And I was like, I can't do that. And he's like, yeah, you can, actually. And he really saw something in me that I couldn't see at the time. I had it in the back of my head. I was too old, but there was something that inside of me that I'm like, if I'm feeling this way,
yeah,
there has to be other women like me. Has to be. I can't be the only woman who used to dance, who wants to express herself, that just because you're an older woman, just because you've had children, or you've gone through divorce, or you've gone through these life changes, doesn't mean you're dead.
Right. Yeah.
Truly. And I'm like, I can't be the only woman out there that feels this way, that you can still be sexy in your 40s,
Yeah.
50s, 60s, 30s, 20s, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. I think it's more of a mindset because
Oh, totally.
I mean, I remember I started going to salsa because I was like, I have a lot of free time right now because some stuff didn't work out. And I'm like, what could I do? And I was like, well, there's salsa. I'm like, well, actually, that's not what happened. What happened was I got drugged to a salsa night in Iowa City where there's like 100 plus people.
Yes.
My friends were like, come with, it'll be great.
Yeah.
I show up. It's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, damn, this looks like a lot of fun. So I started going, started inviting other people. And then the responses I would get would be like, I can't do that, or I don't know how, or
Right.
or oh, that's just not for me. I would love to learn how to dance someday, but I just can't. And
Yes.
I'm like, do you see, like, this is not meant to dance salsa, but I'm doing it anyways.
Right.
So if I can do it, like, it's possible. So I feel like,
Give permission to other people to do it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
some of them have joined and some others have chosen not to, but I'm
Right.
like, it's so much fun. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to at least try?
Right.
Yeah. So anyways,
Yes.
yeah, you were talking about how other women had to feel the same way that you did.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter the age. It's just more of like, I think that almost this like barrier gets put up somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, oh, well, I'm this now. I can't do that.
Yes.
But really you can.
I'm an author, so I wrote a book which is called Kick-Ass Red Lipstick. And I talk a lot about my journey that got me from point A to point B, but one of the things that I mentioned in there was that when you become a mother, all of a sudden there's this misconception that, oh, you can't have long hair anymore. You're a mother. And I remember my own mother sitting me down and being like, you're a mom now. It's time to cut your hair. And I remember cutting, like it's this rite of passage thing where if you're a mother, you can't have long hair, you can't have dyed hair, you can't have, and I don't know where that memo is. Clearly it passed by me. But, you know, one of the things that I try to teach women all the time is that this is what people, you know, this is what people are telling you to do. You don't have to do it. There's no law that you have to cut your hair when you become a mother. Yeah. There's no law that you can't, that you have to stop dyeing it, that you can't wear that mini skirt that you've always wanted to wear, that you can't wear those high heels, that you can't, just because you're a mother or just because you have this job or just because you're married or any of those things. Like when a status changes in a woman's life, when something happens to her, she puts this label on herself because of the pressures that she gets from society, and she thinks that she can't do the things that she used to be able to do. And my job is to show her, yes, you can. And I had a class recently where I have this crazy patterned like shirt and pants. And I showed up to teach class, and one of my students came to me and she was like, oh my God, I love your outfit. She goes, I could never wear that. And I go, why? I'm wearing it. The world's not crashing down. I don't think that anything's happening. I'm wearing this crazy outfit. Why couldn't you wear this crazy outfit? It's you that's preventing from wearing whatever you want to wear. Yeah. And she was like, whoa. Like her mind, she just like, just by having another person say, you don't listen to that, just be true and authentic to yourself. And having another woman tell her that, she was like, oh my God, she's totally right. I can wear whatever I want. That's why when women come to my studio, they're wearing the typical like gym attire. So like the pattern leggings, the, you know, pattern or whatever gym top, and their hair, they got the sweatband or their hair's all pulled up. And it's really interesting. So I'll teach like a lap class, or I'll teach some kind of sexy class, and like halfway through you can tell she'll take her ponytail out and like do this. And I'm like, yes, she's getting it. Yeah. She understands. And
what do you think happens? Like,
I think it's just by this environment that I've created for them. I think out there we're so afraid of being judged. Women are so petrified. I mean, family members, you know, friends. And it's interesting, when women first come here, they don't want to tell anybody that they're coming here. It's like a secret. Yeah. But then after a while, and after they understand really what this place is, next thing you know, they start checking in. They start spreading the news. They start talking to their friends. Yeah. And women all the time are coming to me going, I have friends all the time that come up to me and they're like, I can't believe that you do this. It's like a secret society, like a secret club, which is kind of cool. But very cool. Yeah, I think, but you know, they're spreading the news. And so what happens is that since I'm giving them this soft place to land, since I'm giving them the comfort of this studio and knowing that there's no judgment, there's no mean girls, there's none of that, it gives them the freedom to express themselves. And so like, the leggings turn into fishnets, right? And the tops turn into bras with like sheer, you know, on top. And like next thing I know, she's wearing red lipstick to come to fitness classes. And to some people that might not be a big deal, but to her, it's a huge deal because I'm breaking down the barriers. I'm breaking down those walls with her and giving her that safe place to where she can love her body, express herself as such in a way, and know that the other people that are surrounding her in here support her. Yeah. And love her and encourage her. And that mindset starts to change. I can't tell you how many women I've helped go through divorces. Been on a journey with women that have been single to where they finally have found the right one. Women that have been so disgruntled in their jobs to where just because of what vitality is, It gives them the courage to leave that job and to pursue, or quit their job or go back to school, or finally stand up to themselves, stand up for themselves to their boss. I know it's burlesque, and so many people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
It's just a tool, man.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just this incredible tool, because the way, women and their body image, they say that 90% of women hate their bodies. Doesn't matter her body type. 90%, and I think the 10% are lying. The other 10%, truly. I've never met a woman who said, oh no, I'm the complete package and I love everything about myself. Yeah. It's not true. But if a woman perceives herself and looks at herself and looks at her body, that she loves herself and loves what she sees in the mirror, I mean, that's why this place is surrounded by mirrors, because I don't want to really give women a choice. I want them to look at themselves. Amazing things and magic starts to happen. Since they start loving themselves, they perceive and look at their world in a completely different light, to where they'll finally go through that divorce, or they'll finally get their shit together to where they are a good suitor for a companion, or stand up to their boss, or decide that maybe being a stay-at-home mom is not what they really want to do. They want to pursue a career, so they go back to school. Yeah. We're not just a burlesque studio.
Right. It's almost as if you help people to express themselves in one arena, or I guess arena, if that's the right word.
No, sure.
And
absolutely.
What that does is it kind of moves over to other areas of life too, where I think everybody can relate to this, where you have this like gut feeling about something, or you know you need to do something.
Right.
Whether that's leave a job, ask someone on a date, break up with someone, move, travel, whatever it is, everyone has that little thing inside that they want.
Right.
Or they feel is their next step on their journey.
Right.
And it's really hard a lot of the times to do that, especially if you've waited or haven't done it for a while.
Right.
Or you've sat on the decision.
Yeah.
And it sounds like from what you do here, you almost allow them to, once they start to come out of that mindset in here, it allows them to do it everywhere else.
Right.
Am I on the right path?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. No, it trickles. Absolutely. And, women come to me and they're like, thank you for doing this for me and doing this for me. And they try to give me that credit, but I always say, this is all you.
Yeah.
I'm not working on your life. You're working on your life. I just push. Mm-hmm. That's all I do. You're like, oh, I can't. And I always go, yep.
Sounds like you're almost like a personal trainer in the...
A little bit. I like to think of myself as the Yoda, in a way.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm the guide.
Yeah.
So I just kind of direct you and kind of push you in the direction that you want to go in.
Yeah, you're kind of opening the door, but it's their choice to walk through it.
Right. Yeah. And I used to take it super personally too when women would leave the studio. Of course, I want them to stay here forever. But I think sometimes I don't consider myself a life coach, because I think that word can sometimes, I think that label, when you say life coach, people go, ugh.
Yeah,
there's something about it.
When you said that, I was like,
oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Transformational coach, I help women transform, is probably a better term, but I think, sometimes there's this stigmatism where life coaches want you to keep coming back. You just give them just that much information to get them to keep coming back. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, here's all the information that I have, and take it for whatever it's worth and run with it. And of course I want women to stay here forever, but they don't. And I used to take it super personally when I first opened, and when I was in business for the first 3 years and they would leave, I was like, oh, they're leaving, they're not going to be students anymore. But now I'm like, it's a celebration.
Yeah.
Truly. They've come in here, they get what they need from here, they grow, they make decisions for themselves, they figure out what it is that they really want in their life, and they're like, I'm good.
Yeah. I
don't think I need Vitality anymore. And sometimes they come and go. Sometimes they'll bounce and they'll leave for a while and come back. And I love that I have that. I love it that I have this place. And I love the fact that I can tell women now where they leave and I always go, I'm always here. That Vitality will always be here.
Mm-hmm. Cross my fingers. Cat,
Yes.
somebody comes in the door and they want to sign up for Vitality. Let's say that maybe they're struggling with something or they're going through a divorce. Mm-hmm. What's the first thing that you do with them when they come in?
So this has kind of been a science for us in trying to figure out what that looks like, because Vitality has a stigmatism attached to it. There's a stigma attached to Vitality that it's like this naughty place, right? And I'm trying to break that stigma. Like, I kind of enjoy that it's kind of the bad girl kind of club, but it's really not that way. So I've been trying to figure out different tools and things to try to get women to come into the studio, to make it to where it's not so scary. And so what we've done is we have created this free class every Saturday. So this free class, they come in every Saturday, they get a free shirt. It's kind of like they come in, I teach them a little bit of something. They get to ask other students questions of what Vitality is and what it means to them, and teach them a couple little routines and send them on their way. And I always tell these women when they come to this free class on Saturdays, I always say, this is the hardest thing you're ever gonna do at Vitality, is walk in the doors. I've heard so many stories because of that stigma that we have, so many stories of women sitting in the parking lot, in their car, petrified to come in. Like, I don't know what they think that this place is.
Right.
And I always make a joke about it. I'm like, yeah, we don't run around naked. And I'm like, okay, maybe sometimes. But, they're your neighbors, they're your teachers, they're your friends, they're your, women from all life forms. Doesn't matter. So they'll come in, and then some of them are totally like, nope, you have to be ready for this place. And some women aren't ready. They don't want to have anything to do with it. And then some women think that it's one thing, but end up finding out that it's actually something else. But when they start coming here, they'll sign up for a class, and they soon realize that it's more than just burlesque. It's more about loving yourself, that it's this instant family of women that are like-minded, women from all walks of life who have the same philosophy, that are tired of the women hate women. And because that's what society feeds off of, that's what reality TV is. That's what, women aren't supposed to get along with other women. And I can't even tell you how many times, if a woman comes to me and she says, oh, I don't have any women friends because I don't get along with women, I just have all men friends. I'm like, then this probably isn't the place for you. And so why women are pinned up against each other when no one else can understand what you're going through than another woman is crazy. And so in here, when women start coming here, they realize that it's more about a way of life, and how you look at things and how you treat yourself and how you treat other women. So they start viewing their workplace differently. They start interacting with the women in their life differently. They start looking at themselves differently. They start loving themselves, and they start to go through a transformation. So when they first come to me, they're like, I can never perform. Never. And I always go, okay.
And are you calling bullshit in your head when that happens?
I always go, okay. I'll wait. And sure enough, then she'll come to me and go, well, I think I want to perform at Showcase, which is like, so we have Showcase every 5 weeks. So 4 weeks they learn a routine, and then the 5th week we have like a mini recital here in the studio. Yeah. And so next thing you know, she comes to me and she's like, yeah, I think I want to perform at Showcase. And then she'll perform at Showcase. And then she's like, oh, I think I'm going to bring my friends. And it starts like this journey of accepting herself, accepting the women that are around her, loving herself, and wanting to include other women in that process. And then she'll come to me and go, I could never be on troupe. The Va Va Voom, my burlesque troupe. And I always go, okay. And then tryouts will come. And then next thing I know, she's on the roster. She's trying out for the Va Va Voom. And then she'll make the Va Va Voom. And then when we perform at our shows, pasties are always an option. I don't ever make my women go down to pasties, and I'll talk about that whole process in just a minute. But pasties is something that I feel like that she needs to decide for herself. And so she'll go, no, I will be on the Va Va Voom, but I will never go down to pasties. And I always go, okay. I'll wait for that. Sure enough, a show will happen where half of the Va-Vas will go down to pasties, and then she'll reflect and go, well, she went down to pasties. So she's giving her permission to do that. Yeah. Well, she's going down to pasties. Why am I not going down to pasties? So next thing I know, there she is at a show. Yep, I'm gonna go down to pasties. And she does. And then she comes off stage and she's like, what's the big deal? And I'm like, right. Yeah. And I'm like, well, how do you feel? And she's like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I feel beautiful. I feel empowered. I love the fact that I'm accepting this and I'm able to go down to pasties and I don't care. Yeah. It's liberating for them. Yeah. And so there is like this journey that I watch these women travel. And when they first come to the studio, it's so amazing to me because I get to see them walk in. Yeah. And I get to see them change.
Is it typically, don't be sorry. Is it typically they come in and they traject kind of towards that, and is there any hiccups along the way that you kind of have to work through?
Oh, sure. So there'll be judgment with family, there'll be judgment with friends that might have them take steps backwards. Money, I mean, it is a paying membership, so some women will encounter, financial problems or things that are going through their lives on why they can't come to the studio. Some women don't have that desire to be like on the burlesque troupe, but they love the fact of performing, and so they'll kind of just stay in that student space, and they're completely content with that. And that's really important to me too. And I tell these women all the time that have been dancing with me for years, but are still like taking classes. I tell them all the time, I'm like, it's so important to have you in these classes because as new women are coming in, you're the face of Vitality. I mean, I know I am, and I know my instructors are, but you're the one that's interacting with these students. Yeah. I mean, I'm standing up at the front of the room, directing the room, but the students that have been here for years, if they feel like they're stuck or whatever, by really kind of being a big sister to these women that are coming in, and I always have to like kind of sometimes tap them on the shoulder and go, remember how you were when you first came in? I do. And help her on this journey. She's broken, she's gone through this stuff in her life. Yeah. So it's your time to be that person for her. Yeah. And I think that these women, it reminds them, like I think sometimes the women, it's dramatic. This is burlesque. So it has a tendency to attract women that are more, it's theater. Yeah. So women that are more dramatic, and so there's drama, which is totally fine. Yeah. But, my job is to kind of reel them back in and go, remember what we're about. Remember what Vitality's about. Remember how you were when you came in here. Let's go back to our roots and remember what Vitality represents, and remember that the things that we do in here have benefited you. Now it's time to help her.
Your purpose is not to really make them fit. I guess it's
right.
Well, physically fit.
Right.
It's more of a.
It's a byproduct for sure.
Yeah, I'm imagining if you dance that much, it probably is.
It is.
But it's more of a. You're helping them with their like mindset, really, or it's like their mental fitness, mental health.
Yes, absolutely.
Versus physical, and yeah. So I have two questions that I have. So I'm gonna ask about pasties real quick, just to make sure.
I know. I was gonna say.
Yeah, just to make sure that I know what they are, but I just want everyone listening to know what they are.
Sure.
I would imagine that it's not a common thing that most people know what it is. So what are pasties?
So pasties are just basically discs that cover a woman's nipple.
Okay.
And they can be different things. And sometimes they can have tassels, and sometimes they're rhinestones, sometimes they're like, depending on the act that she's doing, it could be some like of a theme. So like if she's doing something for like if she's like Superman, then she can create like Superman pasties. So it goes in line with whatever her performance is. And one of the pushback that I've gotten with what I do is that I'm objectifying women.
You are.
I am, because of what Vitality is. So I am creating this platform where women are objectified. I get it. I understand. However, pasties is something, and what I tell my audience all the time is that they're just along for the ride. Women go down to pasties for themselves. And what makes Vitality so different than other burlesque troupes or shows is that straight males are the typical audience for a burlesque performance. That's not ours. The typical audience member is usually a female, anywhere between the ages of 25 to 44.
Friend of the performer.
Right, friend of the performer, or someone that's heard of us, or found us. But it's the women that are attracted to what we're doing. And then usually if there's males that are coming, they're usually attached to women in the show. They're there on a date. There's not
a burlesque show for a date?
Yes.
That's surprising. That's kind of cool, though.
Or like married couples or people that have been together. Absolutely. I mean, we have for sure couples that follow us. Okay. Like every time we have a performance, they are
cool.
getting tickets.
I was just a little. I guess I was thinking like an early date, like, hey, I know we just met, but let's go.
Let's go to a burlesque show.
I got burlesque tickets. First date. Let's do this.
Yes. Yeah. But it's. We don't have like these groups of men that are hooting and hollering and coming to our shows. Right. And what I always tell our audience is that they're just along for the ride. The women are expressing themselves and taking off their clothes because they want to, and because of how it makes them feel, and because the empowerment they get. Because when you're taking off your clothes and you're exposing your body, that is a symbol to themselves, that they're accepting who they are, and that they feel confident and loved and want to be able to express that. So I always tell the audience that they're just along for the ride. She's not doing this for you. She's actually doing it for herself. So you just get to watch and experience it.
Yeah, and I imagine that can be very powerful for the audience as well.
Yes.
If they understand that's what's taking place and they see it like that.
Yes.
It could, I'm sure it can have an impact on them, especially if it's, a friend or family member that's going through something.
Yes.
Something similar that they were going through and now have used this as their arena, I guess, because I can't think of a better term. I'm gonna use arena for expression. So.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. If you imagine that there is a woman out there that, you know, maybe is going through, whether it's divorce, midlife crisis, just struggling, whatever it is, and you had the opportunity to really give her a message or to say something to her, to like encourage her to either come to Vitality or just find some way to express herself and get her, for some reason I was thinking mojo, but I don't think that's the right term, but
Get her groove back?
get her groove back, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
If you could tell her anything, what would you tell her?
That she's being too hard on herself. As women, we have a tendency to do that. We love to beat ourselves up. We are our worst enemy. And that, you know, if for a woman who is struggling or is searching for that next thing, and it's usually a life change that happens, right? So a divorce or a new baby or moving to a new town or something, that's what catapults a woman into kind of reflecting on herself and reflecting who she is, that it's not too late, ever. Yeah. And that to not be afraid. And I had an event yesterday where I was asked to give a quote, and one of the things that I said was that you don't ever want to ask yourself, why didn't I do this and why didn't I do that? Because someday it is going to be too late. You want to be able to look at your life and go, at least I tried. I tried this and I tried this and I tried that. And I think so many women we're always making excuses on why we can't do the things that we want to do for ourselves. Yeah. Kids, significant others, jobs. Yeah. Money. Women love to tell me, well, I can't afford it. As a woman myself, I know that I spend money on things that I value as important.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does.
And if you consider yourself important, and if you consider Vitality or anything else, any other interest that you have important, you're going to invest in it. Yeah. And so, to me, I challenge her to make that investment, to pursue whatever it is that she wants to do, and not let others talk her out of it, or she shouldn't ask anybody else's opinion. It's this weird understanding that women have to have acceptance from other people in order to do things for herself. Oh, I really want to buy this dress. What do you guys think? Does it look good on me? Girl, if you feel good in it, buy it. Yeah. End of story. You don't have to have other people's permission to do the things that you need to do for yourself and to nourish yourself. And in order for a woman to truly love other people and to be who she really wants to be, she's got to start with herself. Right. And I say this all the time. I'm like, why is it that everyone else deserves your time and attention? Everyone else deserves the best of you, but you.
That's such a good point, because it's even, if you think about how, I mean, I think about how I talk to myself versus other people. Yeah. Like if somebody else talked to me the way I talk to myself.
I was just going to say that too.
I'd be like, that person's a jerk,
right.
You know? But then when you interact with others, you much more compassionate and kind and generous. Yes. But when it comes to yourself, I think this is even with guys as well, not just women, but just the level of what you're willing to accept from other people versus yourself. Sure. You're your own biggest critic. Sure. Yeah. There was something else I was going to ask along that, but I can't remember what it is. So.
Well, it was funny because I had a student. She was just standing over there, and I don't know. It was just this past Saturday, and we were talking about something, and she's like, because I'm fluffy, and I go. So, fluffy? Oh, well, and she was trying to spin it like it was something positive. See, these women know better than to say the stuff in front of me. And I go, so if you and your girlfriend were getting together and she was getting ready, would you go, oh my God, you look so fluffy? And she was like, I'm like, would you say that to her? She's like, no. So I know you're trying to spin it to me that it's something positive, but I know it's not. You didn't say that to be positive. So every time that you start that negative self-talk, just like you said, every time you start that, you need to say to yourself, would I say this to my best friend? Would I say this to my daughter? Would I say this to the women or the men, in your case, that are in my life? Would I say this to them? No. Then don't say it to yourself.
Right.
It's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
It is.
It's unnecessary. Like, I think a lot of people cause themselves unnecessary suffering. Myself included, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, me
but
too.
It's like, you think about something and you're like, God, why did I do that? I'm a dumbass, or something along those lines. And then you kind of have a moment of self-awareness and you're like, if somebody else did this, is that what I would say to them?
Right.
No, I'd probably be like, hey, you know what? It happens. Pick yourself back up. Everybody makes mistakes. You're going to get it next time. All right? We got this.
Right.
But then when it's you, you're like, oh, this is so bad.
No. Yes.
But one interesting thing that you said was when women are struggling when they first come in here and you're working with them on whatever challenge that might be, they seem to have like some type of resistance to what you're telling them.
Yes, they do.
How do you work with them to kind of work past that resistance, or when they're just like, well, I don't think I can do that, or I'm not going to get there, and you're like, well, give me 2 weeks.
Yes.
How do you work with them through that process?
Delicately. I mean, some women aren't ready. They'll sign up thinking that they're ready. And this is, again, after being in business for the amount of years that I have at this point, that I know to sometimes let these women go. But I have, first class is always, I always say, okay, the hardest thing about walking into vitality. But when you're learning a choreographed dance, it's a muscle memory thing. And if you've never learned a choreographed dance before, it's different than just freestyle dancing. You have to remember, cues with the music and counts, and then moving your body. And not only just moving your body, but moving it in ways that you don't normally. Like I always joke with the women, I'm like, we don't go to the grocery store and we reach out for the, the can of corn that's on the top
That's
shelf.
not how you get the can of corn out?
And you're like, bring it down, and I'm like, okay, we don't do that.
Right.
So these aren't movements that you normally do in your everyday life.
I was picturing
sometimes.
you grabbing the...
Did you?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I would probably laugh if I saw someone doing that at the
Right.
store. I'd be like,
You'd be like, what?
Are they okay?
Yeah.
Do they need help getting that?
Yeah. Either that or you would step back and go, I'm going to watch this for just a second. I'm going to take a peek at what's going on. So they get discouraged.
Yeah.
And I've told all my instructors this too, that it's when women first start coming here, it's like the most crucial time for them, and to really nourish them and to continuously pump them that they're in the right place and that they need to be consistent and just keep coming, because it's muscles, it's muscle memory. And the more you keep coming, the better you're going to get. I promise you. And then other women in the room will always be like, oh yeah, no, Cat knows what she's talking about. And I remember my first month, it was really hard, but the more I kept coming, the easier it got. And just nourishing that relationship, walking them out, hugging them, because sometimes they're in tears. They're like, I'm never gonna get this. And just giving them that positive reinforcement, being like, I promise you, you will. Because the reality is that vitality, 70 to 80% of women have never danced before.
Wow.
I have that 20% that like want me to kill them, like, and I push them, you know, in my dance classes, but on average, it's about 80% of women that have never danced. And so to be super delicate with that and to kind of guide them on this, be the Yoda, right? And guide them on this journey of not only of rediscovery, but of dance and be able to express themselves in a way that they've always wanted to be able to do.
So I mean, we talked about this a little bit before at the interview, and you know, it's not easy running a business, and it's probably especially not easy running a burlesque dance studio.
Yes.
So why do you,
Midwest, for sure.
Yeah, Midwest.
Yeah.
So why do you keep going?
I've had to ask myself that question, actually, because some days are overwhelming. Because I'm not just a burlesque studio. I'm not just a dance studio. I'm, you know, it's become a way of life for me, what I do here. And some days it can be draining. And, you know, I have women almost daily that come up to me and say, can we talk? I mean, that's why I have that office. I don't have an office because I need an office so I can hang my fancy stuff up on the wall. I have an office because almost on a daily basis, women come to me and they're like, I really need to talk to you. I do this because I remind myself of who I was when I was broken. I remind myself of that woman that was so lost and didn't know where to turn. Just like you had said at one point in that blog post.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I want to be the woman that I would have wanted to meet back then. Because I didn't have me. I did. It was in me. It just took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And if I can assist these women in their journey and just be the little bit of a push, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And it's worth it. The drama, the shows, all of it. I mean, fighting with Cedar Rapids to take me seriously. I mean, all of it is worth it because I will have a woman contact me and be like, I'm thrilled that you exist and my life would not be the same without you. And because of you, these things have happened. I mean, I have pages and pages of testimonies. And I'm not saying that like I'm like,
I got all the testimonials.
right.
Right.
I stalk myself. Like when I feel, I know it sounds crazy.
I was like, wait, what do you mean you stalk yourself? My God.
But like because sometimes it's so hard. It's hard to be creator, which is what I'm doing. I'm creating choreography, I'm doing these shows, I'm creating content for my students. But then I'm also like coaching them and assisting them. And then I'm a business owner and I'm an accountant and I'm an advertiser and I'm a marketer and I'm doing all of these things. That sometimes it is overwhelming. And something will happen where I get really discouraged or I'll get it's getting worse now, but I'll get a troll on my social media that says something horrible to me.
Yeah.
And being an empath, that can just completely send me off in a tizzy, and I kind of start going in a downward spiral. So I start stalking myself. I will literally Google myself and start looking at the pictures that are there and start looking at what's out there and the articles, the testimonies, the things that women have said. And then I go, okay, I don't do it for the money. I do it for what I can offer these women to help them change their lives. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, somebody told me this story a long time ago. It was, I think I was in college, I was taking some class, and I went to this like financial literacy class about like being able to retire early and stuff. This guy's name's Mike Finley. He's a good friend of mine. And he told this story. This is going to seem a little off right away, but it'll make sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he tells the story of like this golden Buddha that's somewhere in India at some point in time, and there's this army that's coming like stealing all the gold and tearing down the statues and melting them. So these monks like cover it up with dirt and mud and sticks. So then when they come, they see this statue and they're just like, oh, it's made of wood, it's dirty, there's no gold there. And then everybody forgets that it's like made of gold. And then 100 years later, some monk is like sitting on, I'm probably butchering this story. Somebody actually probably knows what it is. And they're like, he's doing it wrong. But so some monk like sits down and a piece of like dirt or mud or sticks or something falls off and he sees like gold underneath. And then slowly but surely they like chip away all the rest of it and they find this like golden Buddha underneath all this like stuff that they just thought was like a junky garbage like stone or wood statue. And the whole point is like this hero's journey is like you are the golden Buddha. It's just a matter of knocking off all the dirt and the mud and all that stuff that you've either imposed on yourself or society has, to the point where you can be that person that you've always wanted to be.
Right.
You know? So I feel like that's, in a way, that's like your Yoda, Yoda
absolutely.
role in this is helping them to work through that. It makes sense in my mind. I hope it makes sense to everybody else listening. But yeah, I think that's awesome that you do that for these people. And I think that just from the conversations I've had, it seems like women really appreciate everything that you've done. So there's always going to be a troll or someone that says something. Yeah. And, you know,
and that's okay.
It is okay. So I think that kind of winds down most of the first part or the majority of the interview.
Yeah.
I just have a few typical questions I ask everyone.
Sure.
So the first one, is there anything that you try to do on a daily basis that you feel like gives you kind of a win for the day, or some type of routine that you like to do?
For me, when I attack my day, it's, even though I have this role now with Vitality, I still get up, get ready, put my makeup on for me because it makes me feel amazing. You know, wear the clothes that fully represent myself. I think a lot of women think they wear clothing that other people want them to wear. I think a lot of women are not able to express themselves the way that they want to in their clothing. And that's a completely different podcast. We can go through that another time. But so I get up and get ready and dress myself how I want to be presented that day. And that way, every interaction that I have, when I pull myself together and doesn't matter how I feel when I get up in the morning, and there may be things throughout the day that I don't want to deal with, but if I present myself where I feel confident in how I look and that I feel good about myself, my outlook on my entire day changes versus just rolling out of bed and
just rolling with it.
Just rolling with it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to show up as whatever makes you feel the best. Right. I mean, even if you're, rocking fuchsia hair, or or if it's that, or it's like, I don't know. It's probably different for everyone. Somebody gave me shit the other day because for Halloween I went as Macklemore, because why not?
Well, yes, I can totally see that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got these like leopard pattern sunglasses from Goodwill. Yeah. And they're the only sunglasses I own at this point. So I like throw them on, like driving to work or like driving home from work, or maybe sometimes just for fun. Right. And someone's like, "Oh, those are women's sunglasses, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care." I'm like, "It's fine."
But you feel badass.
Yeah, I'm like, I got leopard pattern sunglasses. Right. It sounds absurd saying it out loud.
But it's a total pattern break.
Right. And I mostly just do it because I know it's absurd. Like, I'm not like, I love leopard skin. It's just more or less like, these look ridiculous. Right. And I want to wear sunglasses. Right. So I'm going to do it. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think everyone should have something, whether that's bow ties or wearing like a what's the style from like swing dancing? What's that? I'm trying to think of the right. Yeah, or maybe it's like pinup. Like if you like to wear pinup, like wear pinup.
Right.
It's just do whatever makes you feel like the best version of yourself. So,
Amen.
thank you.
Groove.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next question is, what's the most? Well, you can't say your own book. The most impactful book that you've read.
And I knew you were going to ask this question, and I am not a reader. Never have been, unfortunately. I don't know. I guess I'm just one of those people that instead of sitting and reading, I've always just wanted to attack life and like experience it. Yeah. But I know this is going to sound hokey, but to me, so I watch on occasion. It's funny because people always ask, does Cat ever sit? Does she ever sit down? I mean, I'm sitting throughout this interview, but
I've seen you sit. So if they ask, just be like, ask Trevor.
On occasion, I do sit and I do watch television. Not very often, but it does happen. I think it's because of what I do. Like when I opened Vitality, I didn't expect that I was going to have this role with women's lives, but I know that this is a role that I've taken, and so I've found Tony Robbins to be. I've never read his stuff, but his new documentary, I just was bawling.
Did you? I cried when the Brazilian girl.
Yes.
That was like, there's so many. Everybody should watch the documentary because it's. And I'm not trying to interrupt you. The part where the guy like for everyone that hasn't seen it, this is gonna sound ridiculous. But when he makes him like roar like.
Yes.
Dude, I was like, holy shit, that's crazy.
I know.
That was awesome. And then the Brazilian girl, I mean, all of it was just really good. A friend of mine just actually saw him at a conference. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's like, because he told me, or his wife told me he started crying at the conference when Tony Robbins was on stage just because he was such a powerful speaker. Yes. I know he gets a lot of flack.
He does. Well, that's why I like gave that intro, but I don't care. I mean, I have huge respect for that man. And from my perspective on that is that I know what it's like to have people wanting you to help them and to help them figure things out. And as on occasion, like I'll have to step back and go, I'm human too. I've got my stuff too. I'm a woman too. And I don't expect my paying customers to like completely understand what that is. But watching Tony like behind the scenes, I'm like, I get it. Yeah. I have huge respect for him because I just feel that he's on this mission to help change people's lives. And no matter what that looks like, you have to honor that for someone who is doing what they're doing. And it's such a ripple effect. And that's the thing is that, I mean, even what you're doing, you're changing people's lives, your podcast and bringing people awareness and educating people of what other leaders are doing in their communities. It's a ripple effect. So whoever's listening to this or whatever life that Tony touches it's like that's the drop, right? So it's the drop in the center. And then the ripples start to happen, right? So someone may listen to this and go, oh my gosh, and I heard Cat and she said these things and it just starts this entire, so even though you think you're affecting one person, you're not. You're affecting that person who's affecting these people and these people and these people and these people. And that's what Tony's doing. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, one interesting thing is I don't know a ton of people, like So I think I got listens in like 44 countries last year, which I thought was insane, right? I was like, damn, that's nuts. I'm like, I don't know any of you people. And
I love it. That's awesome.
yeah, but there's really, so there's really only, I mean, off the top of my head, I can only think of one person that's actually come to me and said like, hey, I changed pretty much everything I'm doing because of your interviews. And it's my friend Anya, and she's been traveling like full time. Oh my God. Like I don't know if she left her job because of listening to my show or not, but she's been traveling full time and going all over the place. Yeah. She just started like a travel blog, and I don't know, even if she's the only person that I ever affect, like she's having so much fun. I believe she's having fun right now. Hopefully if she listens to this, she's like, my life is awful, it's your fault. I'm like, oh no.
No.
But I think just the fact that one person changed their, I don't know if it was even changing. I think it was probably something that she's always wanted to do, and just the fact that other people have been able to do it, and hearing those stories and how they've been able to do these things has maybe helped her, maybe helped other people to just be like, well, if they can do it. Because one of the things I try to do is get people to talk about like some of the shittier things that have happened, like, or when things go sideways. Yeah. So that way when other people hear it and they're like, oh man, I've been through that, or I haven't been through anything that bad, so maybe I can do it too. Right. And you know, just having that impact on someone makes a big difference. And the documentary is called I'm Not Your Guru, right?
Yes.
And it's on Netflix. Yep. So that's your recommendation for that. Kat, final question for you.
Yes.
What message would you like to leave the audience with today?
There's a lot of messages, but the reality is that life is really short. I know that sounds so cliche. And the reason why I say that is because I meet so many women where life has happened and they're much older and they really wish they would have done X, Y, Z. If there is something that you want to do, whether it be going back to school or pursuing a different job or leaving that job or finally taking the steps to get that divorce or moving out of the country or leaving your city just in general, any of those things, just take that risk. Because what I tell women all the time is that when we live in this bubble, and this is actually everyone, men too, right? We put ourselves in this little bubble and we're very safe and secure and everything's great, but we don't learn more about ourselves because we're not challenging ourselves. We're not pushing ourselves. We're not thinking outside of the box. We're not doing the things, we're not pursuing those dreams that we've always wanted to do because we're working in a space of fear. My whole goal with everyone is to put that fear aside and to be able to sit down and do what I did, where I'm like, what if I don't do this? What if? And to just go ahead and move forward with whatever that looks like, because you have nothing to lose other than to fail. And in the big picture, if you fail, okay.
You're not dead.
You're not dead. And okay, you failed. But guess what? Through failure, through all of this, when you discover more about yourself, when you step outside of the box, when you finally pursue those dreams, when you finally go back to school, when you finally do the things that you've always wanted to do, growth happens. You learn more about yourself. Don't you want to date you?
Right.
You're dating yourself. What are my interests? It's like when you go out, you have a dinner. I tell women this all the time. You go to a dinner and people go, what are your interests? And she's like, well, so-and-so's in Little League. No. What are your interests? Majority of the time, they don't know. So whoever's listening, I challenge you to find out what those interests are. What is it that turns you on? What is it that you want to do? And to not have fear to pursue those things, because the worst case scenario is that you're going to fail. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
So go do it. Go do it.
All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for this week's show. A big thank you to Cat Cantrill for taking the time to sit down and chat with us on this episode. For more episodes of The Formula, head on over to helixacademy.co. I'm Trevor Carlson, and I look forward to tuning in next time.